Hello, it's Chris again, and I wanted to share with you just now the conversation, or the essence of a conversation that we've just had with a client that we've been to. And this is a business that's been going for about 10 years or so, and it had quite a good period of growth. But the last 3 years, they found that they've reached this sort of plateau, and they've come to a sort of halt. And they had concluded that part of their growth halt was due to capacity constraint, physical capacity constraint. Okay, so what they did was they took a decision to take on new premises, and they doubled this, or they took on bigger premises that would give them the capacity to double in size. Now, but what they found is that they haven't been able to continue. The growth hasn't just restarted since they've moved in, and they've been in a few months now. So they just started to work with us. And if that was the situation that you were faced with, what kind of conclusion would you come to? What sort of advice would you give to them? Well, what we did as we got into the discussion is firstly check they'd done the obvious things, right? So they'd come to the conclusion that their growth was constrained because of physical capacity. So they've moved, as I've said. But if they're not able to grow any further now, is it because, for example, they haven't they're actually constrained financially, having taken on these extra financial commitments in the bigger premises? So you'd obviously check that you're not financially constrained. Have they got, if they're taking on more people to be ready for that growth, have they got the management capability in place? So there are some obvious things that you would do and have make sure that you've covered. But for them, what they hadn't really thought about was the psychological impact and of their staff and the management team. So it's a completely natural phenomenon. It's a completely natural behaviour for people to resist change, either consciously or subconsciously. There are certain people, of course, who resist change consciously. Now, fortunately, within this business, we're not talking about people like that. They had a supportive team who were actually really excited and motivated because the new premises that they'd gone to is a cool place, and they really like working there. But what as just changing the physicality of something, of course, doesn't change someone's working habits or beliefs or psychology. So what they've experienced, we asked the question, they concluded for themselves that actually what's happened is that, yes, people are still operating, still thinking in the way that they were when they were at the old place, and they'd had the last 3 years at a fairly consistent level of business. So as I said, it's a completely normal expectation, actually, that people would not embrace change. You're not suddenly going to get a change of behaviour. So if you are looking to get further growth into your business, or you're looking to get things changed one way or another, presumably accelerate the growth, the question to ask yourself and then ask your team is, what are the things that they're going to do differently? And reflect for yourself, what are the things that would resist that? What are the reasons that people would hold back from that? Not because they intend to or because they consciously want to, but because they're just in a comfort zone. You see, if you want change from people, if you want higher performance, a greater expansion, then they're going to need perhaps new skills, perhaps a new way of working. And it's all to do with this in a classical sort of consultancy model. You talk about change management. Well, we don't need to talk about jargon like that, but things are going to change. Therefore, people are going to be uncomfortable for a while. So what are the things that you're going to ask them to change to? What are the things you're now going to ask them to take responsibility for, or to take the initiative with? And how are you best going to get them to adopt that new psychology, that new way of working, so that you can release the brakes, so that they can get the kind of growth that we're talking about? So there's a question for you, which is, as I said, it's about how are you going to get people to be ready for change, and how are you going to get people to be excited and then take action on things that are not normal actions or behaviour for them? This type of question is precisely the kind of question that will help the leader of an organisation take that business to a whole nother level. If you're not able to implement change and bring your team with you, chances are your business at that level is going to stay at that level. To go from here to something bigger, you're going to have to engage people in change and do that really effectively. So I hope you find that, again, thought-provoking. It's all grist to the mill. It's the way that a leader will think, and a successful business growth is achieved. It's through people and getting them to accept and embrace new things, to move beyond their comfort zone. So what are the things that you can do? I hope you find that interesting, thought-provoking. Share your thoughts on this page. I'll answer those if you've got any questions. And I look forward to seeing you again sometime in the future.